Welcome to the Costa Property Podcast, the podcast that turns your dreams of owning a piece of paradise on the Costa del Sol into reality. I'm Warner Laurie, and I'm joined by my co-host and wife, Sandra Laurie.
Join us as we embark on navigating the ins and outs of real estate and relocation to this beautiful region.
We're not just about market trends, we're about sharing real-life experiences, because we know the struggle firsthand and I've helped many people navigate this challenge also.
If you're dreaming of your perfect Costa del Sol home and want to get real, no-frills, expert advice, then you're absolutely in the right place. Join us each week as we share honest insights and information that will guide your journey. Welcome back to another episode of the Costa Property Podcast. Now, today we are diving into a topic that we see a lot of new Spanish homeowners overlook: the ongoing costs of owning a home in Spain. While you might be focused on the purchase price, there's a lot more to owning a property than just signing on that dotted line. In today's episode, we're giving you the inside scoop on the true cost of owning a property in Spain, because it's not just the price tag that you need to budget for. From property taxes to insurance to utility bills, maintenance, and community fees, we'll walk you through every common ongoing expense as a new Spanish homeowner. Now, why is this important? Because being aware of these costs before you buy means you can plan ahead, avoid surprises, and make sure your dream home doesn't turn into a financial burden. And on that topic, we just want to give a huge thank you to everybody who's already purchased our course, Roadmap to Owning a Property on the Costa del Sol. The feedback so far has been absolutely amazing, and we're so proud of this resource, designed to guide you step by step through the entire buying process. Now, if you're a serious buyer and you're serious about purchasing in Spain, head over to www.wlcostaproperties.net to start learning today. Now, let's get into today's topic. But first, Warner, as always, what is our Spanish word of the day?
The Spanish word of the day is sorpresa. And sorpresa in Spanish means surprise. And we're giving you this information so that you don't get any surprises.
Amazing. Let's jump into today's amazing episode. Warner, what's the crack? What are you up to? How's your day been going so far?
Yeah, we just opened the new office, so the days have absolutely been fantastic. It's been really busy in the real estate front. So I'm so happy, and long may it continue.
Good stuff, good stuff. So we're going to dive into a great episode today, which I think is an episode that's very useful for anybody who is in the process of buying a property in Spain, or that they're just researching, because what we're going to cover today is really, really important as part of their research, right?
We don't want any surprises. When you're buying a property, you're in the theory and mode that this property is going to be yours. You're so close. But we also have to make sure when you're buying the property that you understand the costs going forward.
So Warner, explain first off why it's critical for property buyers to anticipate ongoing costs to avoid any financial stress further down the line.
Yeah, I think when you're a buyer and you're looking to buy a property and dream home in the sun, you're all focused on actually buying the property and getting the funds together to buy it. But after you buy it, there is costs every month and every year that you need to pay to maintain the property and also to pay the government taxes.
So can you give us a little bit more insight into what are some of those costs and where could you expect to typically find them?
Okay, so for instance, if you buy a property in an apartment block, once you're in the community of owners, you'll pay a fee every month for the maintenance of the building. So that would be if you have 24-hour reception, if you have elevators, if you have a swimming pool, the lifeguards. So you would have been told before you bought the property how much that would have been. So now you're in the community of owners and you need to make funds available so that this money is paid every month.
It is a good investment, because if you've bought in a building where there's other apartments, this cost is paying for your pool to be maintained if there's a pool, your garden to be maintained. If there's gardens, often larger buildings over here will have a reception area that has a receptionist looking after like day-to-day queries in the building. So it covers those costs. Security costs, for example, could be part of this, maintaining the car park if there is a car park maintenance cost. So these costs are all going to good use, but it's important that you anticipate upfront what is the monthly fee going to cost me, because you're going to have to pay this on an ongoing basis. From your research, what can somebody expect to pay? Just an average figure.
So probably an average figure is you're buying a 1-bedroom apartment, and you're probably looking, if they have the swimming pool and the reception, you're probably looking between 100 and 150 euros per month.
Yeah. And I guess it's fair to say that the more facilities that your community has, or the more facilities that your complex has, if it's more luxurious, like if you have only a garden, your community fees will be less than if you have a garden and a pool. If you have a gym in on top of that, then you're going to pay more. If you have an elevator, you're going to pay more than a block if you don't have an elevator. It's just because these costs are looking after the maintenance and the ongoing running costs of these facilities, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you enter into, a community of owners, and they have a meeting every 6 months to know where the money is getting spent and the renovations of the property. For instance, every 3 to 5 years, they'll paint the building. So that all has to be paid and all has to be budgeted with the community of owners, the money that you're paying in.
And I think it's fair to say as well, if you are an owner in a complex, you will be naturally invited to attend the community of owners meetings, but you should make the time to go where you can, or appoint somebody to have your vote if there's a neighbour or somebody that you trust and you have confidence in that person, because you will be voting on important topics in these meetings in terms of where the community's monies will be spent to maintain your building. So if there's something that you have that you're not happy about in your community and that's going to be discussed in the community meeting, if you can't attend in person, obviously attend if you can, appoint your vote to your neighbour so that your voice is heard, so that your opinion has been taken into account.
And also, when you are buying into a complex, you will be voting for a president and vice president, and they will be in charge so that they make sure that everything is being followed.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, now we're going to move from community fees into property taxes. So can you give us an insight really into what are property taxes? So if you're new to the Costa del Sol, you're new to buying a property here, what type of property taxes can you expect?
Okay, so there's 2 property taxes that you pay to the government every year. One is called EB, and the other one is Basura. And the EB tax is basically, you pay this to the government, normally in 3 installments. When you're buying the property, the owner should be telling you what the price of that you'd have to pay. Basura is rubbish. So this is the tax that they take, so that they're collecting your rubbish. In Spain, not like other countries, the rubbish is collected most of the time every night. So obviously we have to pay for that. So those will be the 2 main ones, Sandra.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a bonus Spanish word for today as well. Werner mentions that one of the taxes, your annual ongoing taxes, is called basura. That's also the Spanish word for rubbish. It is your rubbish collection that he is referring to there. And what I've noticed as well, Werner, with you, is that when somebody is buying a property, these ongoing costs around EB, Basura and community, they're discussed from the first viewing of the property, because people want to understand what are these ongoing costs that they're going to have to take into account, because depending on the size of the property, sometimes depending on the location of the property, these costs will vary, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It is one of the main questions. What are the community fees, the EB fees, the Basura fees? Because some complexes, if they're small, then they would have to share a block with 6 or 8 apartments. They would have to share that. So 8 apartments, if there's a lot of maintenance or there's anything happening in the future, like renovation, then you would be obliged for this cost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think these are really important topics because if you're coming from a country outside of Spain, look, you will have potentially similar costs. But I think specifically the whole area of the community fees, they can be really new for people, particularly if somebody's coming from an environment where they're living in a terrace or they're, coming from a completely different setup. They may not be used to these costs. So it's great to know these up front, which is why we actually have a full lesson on them in our online digital course, Roadmap to Owning a Property and the Cost That's All, because it's really important to consider this as part of your research. You want to know these costs up front. You plan them in as part of your ongoing budget to avoid any surprises along the way. So you need to get acquainted with these costs very early on. Great. Now we're going to talk about home insurance. So what does homeowners insurance typically cover in Spain?
Okay, so home insurance, particularly in Spain, so, it's not expensive, but if you're buying a one-bedroom apartment, for instance, you would be paying between 200 and 300 euros, and it would cover you, if there was a leak from yours down the neighbours, and if there was any problems inside the apartment. It would also, if you were going to rent the apartment, it would cover insurance for people that's going to be renting your apartment. So there's a lot of different things. Public liability. One of my clients has just bought has actually been shopping around for different policies, and it's good for them to know what's included. But on the basis, it would be like your home insurance policy back home, and you just have to study it.
Yeah, absolutely. As you correctly say there's not a whole lot of differences between them at home, but there is an important part that if you are going to be based in an apartment block, for example, and you have people above you or neighbours beside you, you should ensure that you stay ahead of your home insurance. Leaks happen, people leave taps on, people leave showers on. We see a lot of situations where when people are in a middle floor of an apartment block and they have somebody potentially above them, you see common cases of water damage over here, right? Because people are people. So ensure that you get your home insurance, you stay up to date with it so that you don't end up in a costly situation if anything unexpected was to happen. Werner, is there any more unusual or lesser known costs that you think people need to be aware of when they're buying a property in Spain? What comes to your mind when I ask that question?
No, the initial cost when you're buying the property is obviously expensive because of the taxes in Spain. But after that, it's quite low maintenance because you don't need that much electricity. And if you're renting that apartment, people will be out all day into the beach. So electricity is actually relatively cheap. And if you're buying in the community, if it's old community, then the water could be included in the community fees that you're paying. So, it's not expensive. Once you initially buy the property, it's actually low maintenance to run.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. We forgot to mention that usually your water charges are included in your community fees, which is a great bonus and benefit there as well. But you mentioned there around upfront costs when you're buying a property in Spain. Now, we do talk about this in our podcast, but we talk about it a lot in our online course. And we've also created a product that is available on our website, and it's a budget calculator, which basically allows you to understand what are the costs up front. And you can actually see, based on your budget for your property, what is the total gross amount that you need to consider taking into consideration notary fees, taxes, and all of the other costs associated with your property purchase in Spain. Now, I love this tool, and it's created for people to give them clarity on the upfront costs that they need when purchasing a property in Spain. So, if you want more clarity on that, I would really highly suggest that you check that out. It's available on our website. And as usual, we will have our website address in the show notes of this episode. Just another thing there, you mentioned there about, which you kind of touched on, renting the property out. So if you're buying, obviously, for an investment and you do intend to rent the property out, if you're not in the country, it's likely that you will use a property management company for that. So you're going to encounter property management fees then if you're in that situation and you're renting the property out. So I think it's just good to bear that in mind too. And just something else, I guess, a little bit related but not related. Pest control in Spain. So if you're in an older building, you might be looking at some costs related to, controlling cockroaches or unwanted friends. So that could be an annual cost that you will take into consideration as well, but it is not expensive. But it's just something to think about, particularly if, as I mentioned, you are in an older building. Great stuff. So Werner, thank you for all your insights and wisdom that you've shared with us today. I think there's a few really good nuggets in there for our listeners. Anything final that you want to add?
No, you just touched on the budget calculator, and I've been sending that to my clients for years, and it's so clear because you can tell them all the different costs, but when they're actually seeing it and doing it for themselves, they actually know what they're paying. So it's a really great tool, and I'm glad I can share it with all the listeners.
Amazing. Our mission is to make our clients' life easier, make them feel as prepared and informed, and control overwhelm, especially if you're in that research stage of making your dream a reality. Now, I did mention our online course earlier in the episode. If you are in the early stages of your research to buying your property in Spain, this is the most comprehensive course out there. Actually, I don't even know if there's any other course like it on the market. I haven't come across one, but essentially what it does is it supports you with all of your preparation and planning, informs you so that you will, at the end of the course, understand the process from A to Z and feel very comfortable proceeding to buy your dream property in the sun. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Adios, and we will speak to you soon.
That's the way, well.
Thank you so much for listening into today's episode on the Costa Property Podcast. Another fantastic episode learning about the highs and lows of relocating to the Costa del Sol from real people who have been through the journey themselves, and of course our wonderful experts. If you have been enjoying the show so far, remember to hit subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating or review.
We absolutely love hearing your thoughts. Please send any questions that you would like us to answer on the show to warner@wlcostaproperties.net, or you can pop us a message on our socials, which are in the show notes. Remember, you can also visit the website www.wlcostaproperties.net.
See you on the next episode, and bye for now.
Bye-bye.